Morning from a cold North Devon. I'm Nathan Millward and I want to tell you about what I think is Honda's biggest mistake. So it's Honda's CT125, and why I think it's their biggest mistake is because for whatever reason they decided not to bring it into Europe. I've been running these bikes for the last year or so down here in North Devon for people to come down here and ride. What I've found is that they're just a great usable bike for taking people who've never been off-road before off-road. They're light, they're manoeuvrable, they're easy to ride because they've not got a clutch lever. And for me, it's just a great entry point into adventure motorcycling. They sell them in America, they sell them in Australia. These have come in from Thailand via 7 Seas Motors up in Dewsbury, who've been importing what they can get hold of into the UK. They've got a huge backlog of orders for people who want them, because it's not just me who I think recognises, there's plenty of other people recognise that this is just a great machine. It's very practical. You know, you've got a lot of space on the rear, you can put racks on here, milk crates, wooden boxes, so it's great for camping and just even carrying shopping. Seat height's pretty manageable, about 800mm. It weighs 120 kilos, which is pretty light for a bike. And as I say, it's just a really nice, easy bike to ride. And why Honda haven't brought them in, I don't know. I was at the London Motorcycle Show with this bike. I took it there to display it on a stand I got. And the Honda execs came over and they started saying, well, you know, it's because of the indicators and other bits of regs, ABS on the back, etc., it not having it. And for me, there didn't seem any convincing reason as to why they've not brought this in, but have brought in the Dax, the Grom, the Monkey, the Cub 125. You know, this is the bike that people want to buy, that I think serves the best purpose out of that entire range. And for whatever reason, Honda, you've decided not to bring it in. And I think for me, what we need is getting people into motorcycling. They need a bike that they can manage, that's very versatile, very usable and very affordable. This bike is it. This gives people adventure, this bike. Far more so than the new Transalp, far more so than the Africa Twin or the CB500X, which to normal people are far too big and too heavy for taking off-road or on back road adventures. This is the bike that Honda should have been pushing and putting into the showrooms to get youngsters, to get non-bikers, to get everyone excited and invigorated by motorcycling. And for whatever crazy decision, Honda decided not to bring this in and gave us a Dax instead. So I'm going to take it for a ride. I'm going to show you why I think it's amazing, and hopefully we're going to warm up with a bit of hot chocolate. All right, see you on the road. So what the CT125 does, or a small bike, it makes a tricky little climb like this far more manageable, even with your shopping on the back. No clutch, just keep that throttle going, look up, and away we go. Yeah! So one of the key features of the CT125 is this centrifugal clutch, which has been in existence since the 60s. And rumour has it, it was designed so that the noodle delivery drivers of Japan could deliver noodles one-handed, but still have the flexibility of a gearbox. I find that not everyone gets the hang of it straight away, which is pretty normal, but once you do get the hang of it, it's a beautifully simple gearbox. You've got to remember that you have got gears and you have got a clutch. But rather than a clutch lever, the kind of clutch is operating, engaging and disengaging automatically when you open and close the throttle, and also when you lean on the lever. So you've got, first on these Thai imported bikes, the Australian versions are different, they're inverted. You've got neutral at the top, I go down into first, down into second, down into third, down into fourth. Stationary, if I go down again, goes into neutral. Main thing you've got to remember, close the throttle when you're changing gear. On the downshifts, it's really useful if you can get into the habit. When you go to downshifts, you're going to click down, hold it briefly, bit of a rev on the throttle, bit of a blip on the throttle, and then release it. And that'll just soften that downshift. But as an old wise man told me, on a box like this, on a gearbox like this, you change up early and you change down late. Remember them two rules and you can't go too far wrong. So just a few of the features I like about this bike. Like the old 110 and the old 90s, it's got the high lift exhaust, which obviously keeps it a little bit out of the way. The only shame with the 125 is it sits wider than the rear rack, which means that if you do drop it, you are likely to, or you can run a risk of damaging the exhaust. The old 110s, the exhaust sat within the width of the rack, which I like. But on the upside, it's got a really big rack on this. Everyone likes the big rack, and this has got probably the biggest rack on any motorcycle. Which sounds like, well, what do you need a rack for? I mean, for travelling, you can put so much stuff on there. You don't need side panniers. You can put all your camping gear on that. It also integrates a high-level air intake, which means that you can wade pretty deep depths on this bike, just as you could on the old 110s. So you could probably wade up to about here and not run any risk of getting water into the engine. The 125's also got ABS only on the front. Also got an electric start. I do take the Kickstarter off because I find it catches when you're standing up, catches on the hill. It's got LED lights, and yeah, it's taken the virtues of the old bike, the 110, and made it more modern. Initially, I wasn't sure about this. It felt too big, too chunky, almost like a fake imitation of what was a great 110 product. But the more I've ridden this bike, the more I realise it gives you the same off-road exploration potential, but far better road manners. This will sit at 50 miles an hour. The old one is sort of sit at 40, 45. It's got more room in the body, so you can sit for longer. Got a better seat. So all in all, Honda has made a great little usable travel bike, adventure bike, trail bike. It's kind of 3 bikes in one. So the beauty of this bike, and any small bike for that matter, is just that you can get your feet down. So if you're starting out in trail riding and you've never been off-road before, what you need is a bike that doesn't intimidate you. There's no chance of it intimidating you. I can get the feet down, both feet flat on the floor. 120 kilos, it's about 20 kilos heavier than the old CT110, but it's still really light, really manageable. So if you start to topple, easy to put a foot down, easy to catch the bike. And also because you haven't got a lot of weight, you haven't got a lot of massive machine to push into the mud and to start to slide. You start taking a 200 kilo bike off-road and the weight's really going to work against you in the mud and the slop. And the awkward thing is that the manufacturers increasingly are showing their flagship adventure bikes as being great in the dirt. You know, because they've got an iconic, greatly skilled rider in perfect conditions drifting, say for example the new KTM 790 in the deserts of Morocco. It doesn't translate to the sloppy lanes of North Devon or anywhere else in England. What you need, light, low, easy to manage. The beauty of the CT125 as well is that because you've got no clutch lever, you can't stall the bike. The centrifugal clutch will always stay engaged and alert and positive on the throttle. You can't stall it, so it removes one element of control which sometimes trips people up, which is why for me this setup is ideal as a novice off-road bike. I think what I love about the CT125 more than anything else is just that it allows you to get out and explore and to do tracks and routes and trails that you wouldn't otherwise do on a bigger bike. That for me is why it's such a great bike, because I can come down a trail like this on my own on an afternoon. It's a bit cold, a bit blustery, but I'm perfectly safe. I can explore, I can get off the beaten track, and that is why it's such an amazing little bike and an amazing little machine. And nobody cares, you know, nobody's bothered about me being here on this. Nobody's intimidated, there's no leery sound or graphics or engine. People are just happy. You have a chat, see what they're up to. Bobbly, bobbly, bobbly. There's a lot of fun to be had on a small bike, and I think this is probably the best small bike of them all. In fact, I know it is. I know it is. Honda, the power of dreams. What a machine, eh? Just what a machine. It is just the ultimate exploration adventure machine. I don't care what anyone says, this is all you need for going anywhere in the world. Nice small bike, manageable weight, totally unintimidating. Your nan could ride one of these around the world, and that's why it's such an amazing little machine, and that's why, again, it's Honda's biggest mistake. Bring it to the UK, bring it to Europe, Honda. let us buy it. Let us buy it in the numbers that it needs to be bought. Let's get people back on bikes. Let's get them out on these trails and these tracks. Let's get people down to Tesco for the shopping. Let's just get people on bikes, on 2 wheels. Give us some fun, Honda. Give us this bike. To conclude, do I think that the Honda CT125 is Honda's biggest mistake? Yes, I do. I think just riding it today, riding it this morning, we've just been out on some lanes and some back roads. I think what always strikes me when you ride it is just how much fun it is. It's fun, it's manageable, and it's practical. So what happens going forward, whether Honda ever do rectify things and bring this bike to Europe, I don't know. I think as time passes by, it's becoming increasingly unlikely. I think the fact they brought us the Dax but not this suggests that this is just never meant to be for us in Europe. So I think it's a massive shame, because for me it is probably Honda's best bike in its catalogue and probably its best bike for the last 10 years. So PS, come down to Dorothy's to ride one.